right? Private root table, then choose my VPC, then create a root table. Now what must I do is I will add roles and add subnets that we want them to be in the public root table, and the same thing with private root tables. I will go to my public root tables, go to subnet associations, then edit subnets associations, then I will choose public subnet 1 and public subnet 2, then save the association. Another thing here, and we will do the same thing with the private root table. We will add only the private subnets to this root table. Then edit subnet associations. Then we will add private subnet 1 and private subnet 2. Then save association. Next step. So to go to the internet, what we use in real life, for example in our router that we have in our home. So every time I want to send some traffic, I send it to the default gateway. Then the default gateway will look in the route tables, right? And then we will transform my traffic everywhere I want. For example, if I am on this local machine and I want to search for Google. So once I type google.com in my browser, right, the browser will go to the DNS, right? But instead of that, it will go to the default gateway that is in my router, and there it will find the DNS. Then the traffic will go out, then look for Google, then give me a response. The same thing here is to enable our subnet in the public route table to access to the internet. We have to create an internet gateway and attach it to our VPC. So let me go here, then create an internet gateway and call it my gateway. Then create an internet gateway, then attach it to a VPC, then attach internet gateway. Next step, I have to define a roles, or I have to add a route to my route tables, right? Go to route tables and go to the public route tables and go down here, right, in routes, and add another route. This route what says, so the route says that any destination to the internet or to the outside go to the default gateway. So if every time I type an IP address that is not within my range or within my VPC, so try to go to the gateway, then the gateway will take you to the outside and will retrieve the information that you are looking for. So every traffic that goes to the outside, or means to any IP address that is not in this range, go to the internet gateway, and here the gateway that I have created earlier will appear here. I will click on it, then save changes. right? Next step now is I will go to the subnets and I will enable to this public subnet, go to the actions, then modify auto assign IP address settings, then I will click auto assign IP address. And the same thing for the other public subnet. So go to this second public subnet, modify auto assign IP settings, then enable auto assign public IP address, then click on save. The next step is I will create an EC2 instance that will enable me to interact with the instance that reside in the private subnet. For example, if we use, for example, either Mobox term or POTI, right? And we want to interact with this EC2 instance. This EC2 instance is not able to communicate with the internet. So I cannot access to it if I try to use the SSH connection. So instead of that, I will use the SSH connection to this EC2 instance, and throughout this EC2 instance, I will communicate with the instance that reside within the private subnet. So next step, I will create an EC2 instance. And we are all times in the Oregon region. Here, I will launch an instance. You can either use this instance and then use parties to communicate to it, or you can use the Cloud9, right? Then I will launch an instance, then I will launch this EC2 instance, then here I will choose my VPC, and here I will choose my first public subnet, right? Then add storage, add a tag, give it a name, then configure security group. Then the source, you can either here type your IP address, not your private one, but go in Google and search for your public IP address and paste it here, right? ./32, right? So only you can make an SSH to your EC2 instance. This is for a security reason. Otherwise, you can leave it. For example, if you like that after you finish your lab, you turn off that EC2 instance. Then launch. Then here I have already key pair here. I will choose it, I will acknowledge, then I will launch instance. Then view the instances. Now I want to communicate or to connect to this EC2 instance that reside in my public subnet using POTI, right? So I have never used POTI before, but in this demo or in this lab, I will show you how it's working, right? So let me go here, for example, and the first thing that you will do, that once you create your key pair, it will be in the .pim extension, right? Then you will click on POTI generate, right? Then click on load, then choose your pim.extension